User stories are a fundamental concept in Agile software development, particularly in methodologies like Scrum and Kanban. They are used to capture and communicate customer or user requirements in a simple and understandable manner. A user story typically consists of a brief, informal description of a feature or functionality from the user's perspective. Here's a more detailed explanation of user stories. User story format. The user story is typically written in the form of a short sentence that follows this template. As a type of user, I want an action so that benefit a reason. For example, as a website visitor, I want to be able to reset my password so that I can regain access to my account. Acceptance criteria. To provide more clarity and definition to a user story, acceptance criteria are often added. These are specific conditions or requirements that must be met for the user story to be considered complete. Priority and estimation. User stories are typically prioritized by the product owner, based on the needs of the users and the business. They are also estimated in terms of complexity or effort required to implement them. This helps in planning and scheduling work in Agile iterations, e.g., sprints. Iteration and feedback. User stories are often iterated upon. During development, the team may uncover new information or insights that lead to changes or refinements in the user story. This iterative approach allows for flexibility and adaptation to evolving requirements. In some cases, user stories can be organized into a visual tool called a user story map. This helps in visualizing the user's journey and how different user stories relate to each other. User story points are a relative estimation technique used in Agile and Scrum to estimate the complexity, effort, or size of user stories or other work items. They are not meant to provide an absolute measure of time or effort, but are used for comparing the relative sizes of different tasks. User story points are commonly used in Agile planning and help teams with capacity planning, sprint planning, and release planning. Relative estimation. User story points are not based on specific units of time, e.g., hours or days, but are relative measures. They help teams assess the size of one user story in comparison to others. For example, a user story with 3 story points is considered to be roughly 3 times more complex or effort-intensive than a user story with 1 story point. Fibonacci sequence or t-shirt sizes. Teams often use a scale like the Fibonacci sequence, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, etc., to assign story points. This nonlinear scale acknowledges that estimating larger or more complex work items is inherently less precise. Team consensus. Estimating user story points is a collaborative effort involving the entire Agile team, including developers, testers, and other relevant stakeholders. It's crucial to have discussions to reach a consensus on the estimates. This promotes shared understanding and buy-in. Focus on complexity. Teams should consider various factors when assigning story points, such as the complexity of the work, technical debt, unknowns, and dependencies. The goal is to estimate the effort required to complete the user story from start to finish. Historical data. Past sprint performance and the completion time of user stories with known story points can provide valuable data for estimating future work. Teams can use historical data to calibrate their estimates. Velocity. Velocity is a measure of how many story points a team can complete in a single sprint. It is calculated by summing up the story points of all completed user stories in a sprint. Velocity helps teams plan the amount of work they can commit to in future sprints. Adaptation. Teams should continually refine their estimation process based on feedback and real-world experience. Over time, they become better at estimating and understanding their capacity. User story points are a valuable tool for Agile teams because they allow for flexibility and adaptability in planning. They provide a way to prioritize and schedule work based on the team's capacity, and can help prevent overcommitting or undercommitting in a sprint. That's all for this session. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.